What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Future Knight Eric here, coming at you with another deck profile, and today we are going to be covering S-Force. Yes, I know, not a very popular deck, not a very competitive deck, but a deck that I've always had an interest in, and yeah, I decided to take it to my locals this past weekend, and I actually did relatively well. I went 3-2, literally losing out in first place because I lost in the final round, and the only reason I lost is because I didn't draw a single S-Force monster. I did draw the traps, 2 of them, even after siding out 1, so it was just terribly unfortunate. But I mean, we take those, and I mean 3-2 with a deck like this is absolutely incredible, especially one that I just the day before theory crafted and just brainstormed and put together to take to locals. This deck has a lot of potential. It's got a little bit of a cult following. I see a lot of the deck profiles that have popped up in the last year or so have done relatively well. So I thought to myself, hey, why not, for those S-Force fanatics, show off the profile? And if this video gets enough attention, and if you like the video enough, I might actually do a combo video alongside it. So the goal for this video is 100 likes. If we get to 100 likes on this video, I will do a combo tutorial showing every single combo I discovered at my locals in those 5 rounds. And there are some wacky ones, like some really, really cool interactions that can get you to like bounce 3s, bounce 2s with a banish. It's absolutely insane. Another thing I do need to mention is in this deck, I am running a engine that does boost the consistency quite significantly. The engine itself is obviously extremely powerful. It is branded, but I mean, it's easily accessible. You can get a hold of 3 structure decks, and you're not actually worried about the branded stuff resolving. You're using it to bait out the hand traps so that you can then go into your S-Force combo, which is arguably significantly worse than just a Mirror Jade, but sometimes it actually is a lot better. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and with that little introduction and I guess challenge put forth, I guess we can just jump straight into the deck profile. Starting off, we play 3 of the reason I wanted to play this deck. 3 S-Force Rapper Shiomaru. Probably going to butcher all these names. She's absolutely incredible. She is literally the deck. Without her, the deck cannot function. Her effect is Quick Effect, banish a S-Force card, quite important, it doesn't need to be a monster, which is significant. Banish an S-Force card from your hand, and then on resolution, she bounces herself back to the hand and then summons a monster, S-Force monster from your deck. Very, very powerful, obviously tuning out, e-tailing out all your monsters. Cost is a little bit hefty, but banishing is often what gets you access to some of your more high impact plays. Also, every S-Force, pretty much every S-Force, has an effect in columns. So if monsters are in the same columns as S-Force monsters, a continuous blanket effect will take place. With regards to her, monsters in the same columns as S-Force monsters have to attack that corresponding monster. So they can't attack diagonally, they have to attack directly into the S-Force in front of them. So not extremely significant, but all of them are like very niche and very weird, but sometimes they do come up. Then for the second 3 of the newer S-Force, we are playing 3 S-Force Retroactive. Now, a lot of lists play this at 1 or at 2. I think 2 might be correct. This list is very, very tight. It's at 40 cards, and this is probably one of the very few flex spots in the deck, is S-Force Retroactive. He does not have a column effect, but he has 3 other effects. So his first effect is very similar to Rapper. It's a quick effect. He bounces himself back on resolution, and then you can summon a different S-Force monster from your hand. This is only during the main phase. Rapper is a quick effect whenever, which is significant. But yeah, this is basically just to get out those bigger S-Force monsters out of your hand and onto the field so you can trigger the effects. He then has a second effect that if he is in the graveyard and you need to banish a card from hand to activate a S-Force monster's effect, you can banish him from the grave instead. He also shares this effect with the trap card. Then the third effect, which is probably the most significant, is he can link sort of like a microcode talker with S-Force monsters on the board to go into our link 3, which is the only S-Force link that we have, which is pretty cool. It means you don't need to get the 3 bodies on board to make your link 3. Then for the other three of this is a undoubtedly you have to play three. This is Gravitino. This is actually Gravity Controller, I think from a different dimension as far as I can tell from the lore. He is the best probably main deck S-Force monster after Rapper. So after, resolving Rapper, you get into Gravitino. Gravitino's effect is when he's normal special, also significant. Sometimes you can just tribute summon them. You can add any S-Force card. Again, that S-Force card is very important. It's not limiting you to spells, traps, or monsters. Then his continuous column effect is any monsters that would leave the field get banished instead. So the trap card that we'll see later on is essentially a glorified compulsory evacuation device, and then when those monsters or cards that you bounce back are in these columns, the monsters will get banished instead. He's absolutely insane. 2,000 attack points, not that hefty, but you'll see that not a lot of the monsters are very strong. Our next one is Platina. Platina targets and summons back one of our banished S-Force monsters, and then her column effect is all monsters in S-Force columns all your opponent's monsters lose 600 attack. She's also part of the combo, and there's a combo that if you draw the trap card and you don't need to search it, you can actually end on a bounce with 3, but it does involve retroactive, which is probably another reason why I like playing it at 3. Then we are playing 2 S-Force Razor, basically extra copies of retroactive. He doesn't have the cool, link from hand effects or bounce effects, but on normal special, he special summons an S-Force monster from your hand in attack position. And then his column effect is anything that is in a S-Force's column cannot be used for a link 3 or higher. Opponent's cards, you can use your own cards to link. And then boss monster, essentially this is how you clear out games. Lapacewell or Lapacwell or Lapswell. He is absolutely insane. If he specialed, he summons back an S-Force from grave. Sometimes you won't have many S-Forces in grave, but it is significant just to get another body. And then not a quick effect. Sorry, if it was a quick effect, it would actually be good. But an ignition effect, you banish a S-Force from hand, or if you've got retroactive or the trap in grave, you can banish that instead to destroy all monsters, not cards, in the same columns as S-Force monsters. If it was cards, this deck would actually have some kind of play against macro decks, because as of right now it doesn't. All of these cards affect monsters. And then a card that I wasn't playing for locals, but then I decided I really have to, is S-Force Orifice. So this card is often considered pretty bad because by himself he doesn't do much, but in actuality he's fairly decent. He's a level 4 1/8, which is pretty strong, and he is one of the few that has a quick effect where if your opponent activates a monster or a monster activates its effect, you can banish an S-Force card from your hand or retroactive or trap in the grave to then destroy that monster. Obviously not mind-blowing, but it is some form of interaction. So if you normal summon Rapper and activate its effect, her effect, and she gets Veiled or Impermed or Ash, you still have the Rapper to trigger in your opponent's turn, but unless you drew the trap, you summon literally nothing significant to slow them down. Yes, you can summon retroactive and then get a search, but then you have to survive a turn. And a lot of decks right now are OTKing or setting up unbreakable boards. So by summoning out this, you get a little bit of disruption. Even though it might not be absolutely insane, it's still something that can perhaps slow them down. So I definitely suggest you have to at least play one. I see a lot of us playing none of him, but I think at one, being one of the few with a quick effect, is it's worth playing. And then obviously we are playing more copies of Rapper, essentially. If you do not see Rapper in this deck, you literally just lose. It's not great. So yeah, these are essentially more copies of Rapper. Search an S-Force card on activation. You can only activate once per turn, and then it's got an effect, terrible effect. If there is a battle involving an S-Force monster with a monster in its column, you can activate it. I don't know why it has to be activated, but then your S-Force monster cannot be destroyed by battle. And then the card that literally makes the deck, and this is absolutely unbelievable, but a lot of these cards came out in Blazing Force, and then this came out afterwards, so no idea how the deck was playable beforehand. But anyway, this is your glorified compulsory evacuation. For every S-Force monster, you can target face-up cards. Again, making that back row matchup really rough. Being able to only target face-up cards, but you target face-up cards and then you bounce him to the hand, and obviously if your Gravitino is on the field, they get banished instead, and then it has the replacement cost to banish from grave instead of from hand as well. Then, like I said, because we have to get access to Rapper to play, I decided to play Edia, the Heavenly Squire. I did not play this for the locals, and it cost me quite a bit. I was just playing some like really heavy blowout spells, so like Harpies, Mystic Mine, and Dimensional Fissure, but I slowly came to realize that if I don't get into my S-Forces and start rotating them, because Rapper recycles itself every turn for the next turn, it becomes very difficult to play. So this essentially mitigates that and allows you to keep playing. And because it's a warrior, it's actually pretty cool. There's some combos you can do to get into one card justifies, which is really, really strong. Then for the engine that I said, obviously we're playing the 2 Fallen Albaz and 3 Branded Fusion. So basically what this engine did is Rapper needs herself plus any other S-Force to be able to do anything. What this mitigates is if you draw Rapper by herself, and Branded Fusion, you now have access into combo because you can send Retroactive because it is a light monster, which is pretty significant. And then obviously Mirror Jade is just cracked as well, and it baits out Ash and it baits out Veiler on your Albion. Then for the free agent cards, we are playing 3 Shifter. This is one of the very few decks that can play it, and Branded Fusion is not that bad under Shift in this deck because you can still get into a Mirror Jade through Lobelion, and you then stack your Banish pile for potential targets for Platina. Obviously we're playing 3 extra. Some people play Prosperity. I don't have access to Prosperity anymore. I sold mine before the reprints, but this is great. Just getting access into potentially more names is really, really important. And your extra deck doesn't really matter as long as you at least have one of each of the branded and maybe one link. Then we are playing the Call By Guard card. If you see it, you win. It should be banned. And then because literally everything in the deck is different types, we can play this card without worry. Even the branded engine, you go into a dragon and then a worm. There is a little bit of a crossover with Retroactive, Edia, and Rapper. They are all warriors, so that's why Edia is a 12 in my opinion. But between Rapper and Retroactive, you're not going to have both on the field very often. And then there is a crossover between the Aurifist and our Razorblade. They are both Cyberse, but again, it's not really important. And if you flip this with both of them on, obviously you're going to keep the Aurifist because it actually does something post its summon. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the main deck. 40 cards, very, very clean. The only 2 cards I would consider putting in maybe in place of that 3rd Retroactive is a Trap Trick and a Specimen. And if we do get this video to 100 likes, you'll see why the Trap Trick becomes a little bit more important. Any hand with Rapper, a different name, and the Trap, meaning you don't have to search for the Trap, is a 3 bounce S-Force chase, which is very, very cool. So having that trap or access to that trap becomes a lot more important. And then Specimen is just good for recursion and able to move your opponent's monsters to main monster zones where your S-Forces can affect them. Onto the extra deck, very, very simple. Playing 3 Justify. This is your quick effect. Imperm, move to a zone it points to, and then in the beginning of the damage step, when this card battles, it banishes everything it points to. That's pretty much it. Then we, of course, are playing Liner, Dark Liner, and Boral Sword. This probably should be a Link Rebo just because of that Edia. If it does get hit with a hand trap, you can then just make a Link Rebo and hopefully survive. Yeah, these are insane. This helps you climb into this. These help you actually climb into this. These actually helped me out a IP made Avramax. So basically I made one of these. His Avramax was in the extra monster zone. I then summoned this. The worst thing is though, this banishes all monsters it points to when it attacks. So I banished my own Liner, but it didn't matter because I got rid of the Avramax, which is pretty significant. And then obviously 3 Mirror Jade, 3 Lobelion, 3 Albion. Not much to say there. Then into the side deck. This deck is absolutely horrendous going second. It can do literally nothing. You need to see branded stuff to bait out negates and to disrupt your opponent's board. So my thought process with this is to play every single hand trap that basically says on its text, skip a turn. So literally 3 Nibiru, 3 Artifact Lancia, 3 Droll. No 1-for-1s, just straight up floodgate them. Hopefully they cannot set up anything, and then we can set up our board. Very difficult to OTK in this deck. You need like a Branded Fusion, a Rapper, plus a Gravitino in hand to be able to do anything like that. But yeah, these are very important. Droll didn't go in at all the whole day. Lancia went in against Flunder, didn't see it. Nib put in work the whole day. Getting that 3,000 body is also super important, and then you can just pop the token with your Lapswell and then go for game. And then, like I said, because we have no going second power, we need the best going second cards. So we're playing 3 Raigekis, the 1 Harpies for back row decks, and then 2 evenly for back row and for our monster deck. So literally, either don't let them build a board or let them build it, but then break it down to a point where we can play. And that's pretty much it for the deck profile, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, if this video gets to 100 likes, I'll show you the combos that I discovered with this deck. There are a lot, and they're very intricate and sort of big brainy, not to stroke my own ego, but it's a very interesting deck, and I do think a lot of people should try and pick it up if they can. Very cheap. I don't think there's a single card over $2, and every card is 50 cents except for Rapper. On Troll and Toad, she's like $15 for some reason, but on TCG Player, she is a single whole $1. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for this deck profile, and hopefully we can reach our goal of 100 likes. And this is Future Knight signing out.